So thank you so much for watching the film. I know it's not an easy watch, so I'm really grateful for all of you that watched and for all of you that left and came back in as well. It's not an easy film to watch, but I think it's important. And I want to kind of start by saying, I wasn't born vegan, and I wasn't even born vegetarian. I mean, for 21 years of my life or thereabouts, I ate meat, dairy, and eggs. In fact, I eat Domino's pizza pretty much every week. I always get 2 for Tuesday. I get Texan barbecue and meat feast, and I always get stuffed crust and I had extra lots of mozzarella on them. And I went to my KFC so often, my local one, that the people in there knew me by my name and they knew what I liked. And I always proclaimed every day that I could never live without halloumi. I loved these products, like most of us did at some point, and most of us still do. I used to buy cosmetics that were tested on animals, and I used to look forward to days out at the zoo, and I wore leather, wool, and silk. I didn't give any of these things up because I didn't enjoy wearing them or eating them or using them anymore. I even had a friend, and I said to my friend one day, I said, "But how can you live without bacon?" Because it was a genuine question. I couldn't understand why someone would make the choice not to eat these things. Because I thought that person would be missing out, that could give me something up, and I couldn't understand why they would do it. And it was kind of through watching this kind of stuff that I started to explore a little bit more about the ways we treat animals and the things that we do to them. And it quickly dawned on me that the moment we're born, we begin to be indoctrinated with a set of values. And before long, we start making actions based on these values, rather than based on our morality or what we think what we think that we should be doing. Now, if you feed an idea in society enough, it becomes a societal norm. If you continue to feel that societal norm, it becomes part of the culture. And if you pass that culture down generation to generation, it eventually becomes tradition. Now, we need to look through history, to see why culture and tradition are not good dictators of morality. If we look throughout the world currently, we can see examples where female genital mutilation is part of tradition. In some cultures, it's cultural to treat a woman as less than a man. But these things certainly aren't moral, just because they form a community's tradition or culture. If we apply it to more of a non-human animal situation, there's events like the Yulin Dog Meat Festival and the Bocknell Dog Meat Festival, both annual, where tens of thousands of dogs and cats are killed, cooked and eaten. And in Japan, they have the slaughter of dolphins in Taiji, and in the Faroe Islands, they have the slaughter of pilot whales. Both of these things, or at least all of these festivals and events, are part of the tradition and culture of these areas. But we consider these things to be moral. But at the same time, it's not moral to kill a dog or a cat or a whale or a dolphin. Why is it moral to kill a pig or a cow, a fish, a chicken or a sheep? After all these animals feel, they all think, they all suffer, and they all have a preference to live their life just like we do. So what right do we have to take their life from them if they wish to live their life? It comes down to culture, and it comes down to tradition. But as we know, these two things should not decide morality. So how can we point our finger arbitrarily, decide who lives and who dies? What gives us the right to just draw these superfluous kind of barriers, these boundaries between animals, and think, well, you belong in my family and you belong in my plate. These animals all suffer just like we do. Now, I think it's important to kind of mention the food chain, because the food chain is something that's often cited to justify why we do these things to animals. But the food chain is a natural system that is prevalent in prevalent in all ecosystems. And it serves a very specific purpose. It's to maintain those ecosystems, it's to maintain the fine balance that exists throughout nature. The things that we do to animals when we artificially inseminate them, when we forcibly impregnate them, when we take their babies away from them, when we mutilate them, when we chop their tails off, we extract them, we cut their teeth, when we exploit them and take what's rightfully theirs or rightfully there for their children, when we load them into trucks and ship them to slaughterhouses where we hang them upside down and cut their throat, is as far removed from nature as possible. Nothing we do to animals resembles anything that would happen in the natural world. If we think about it this way, animals that are meant to kill animals are able to kill those animals using their own bodies, their claws and their teeth. All natural predators use what they've been given to kill animals. They don't need to use weapons or guns or knives, because if they did, they wouldn't be natural predators. Think about it this way. If I brought a pig into this room now, how many of you would be able to butcher and kill that pig using your teeth or your canines? At best, you'd probably give that pig a belly rub, you'd probably be able to tickle them, and the pig would probably enjoy it, because the claws you have are not built for killing or puncturing animals. I tell you, pigs love belly rubs, just like dogs do. They're on their side and they love them. Because all animals have the ability to show compassion, feel loved, and show love. How about I brought a chicken in the room now? It's much more likely that we as humans could kill a chicken. We could probably wring their neck. We could probably pluck them, we could maybe even butcher them and open them up. But at the same time, we're not going to eat raw chicken, are we? Because it can cause a whole host of illnesses and diseases. In fact, it can even kill you. But natural animals or natural predators don't have to cook their meat before they eat it. How often do you see a lion with food poisoning because they've eaten raw gazelle? It just simply doesn't happen because they're naturally meant to eat these animals in the first place. But really what it comes down to is moral agency. Now as humans we have moral agency, which means that we are able to make a decision based on a notion of a right and wrong. And more importantly, we can be held accountable for those decisions. The food chain that we have constructed is a man-made concept. It is conveniently created to justify what is an entirely unnecessary act. In essence, it's an appeal to nature fallacy that argues that our actions are preordained for us by biological determinism and completely ignores the fact that we have moral agency and we have the ability to go into a supermarket and choose two products, one that contains a dead animal or contains the secretions of an exploited animal and one that doesn't. If I was to bring a cow into the room now and I had a fresh and sharpened knife, and I offered you the knife to kill the cow, how many of you would stand up and volunteer to cut that cow's throat? What if I brought a lamb, a 6-month-old lamb, and I offered you the same knife, and I said, who here would like to decapitate and chop the leg off that lamb? How many of you would do it? Say someone did decide to do it, say someone volunteered to stand up to kill these animals. How many of you would turn away, object, walk out, or stop that person? Say you were walking down the road and you saw a dog being abused. How many of you would call the police or actively intervene to stop that dog from being abused? Now say that the dog is a pig, would you still intervene? Would you still call the police? Now say that pig is being abused in front of you, but now being abused behind the wall where you can't see them. Does it make it moral because you can't see it? Is unnecessarily killing an animal always immoral, or is it only morally reprehensible if the blood is on your hands? If you take a baby and you put a baby in a cot, and in that cot you put a strawberry and a bunny rabbit, which one will the baby eat and which one will the baby play with? If you think about it this way, the FBI states that most serial killers began their life by hurting and torturing animals. Ted Bundy killed animals, Jeffrey Dahmer killed animals. How come the FBI, criminologists and psychologists view children who torture and kill animals as red flags for people who might potentially grow up to hurt other humans? After all, a lion teaches their children to kill. A tiger teaches their children to kill. A jaguar teaches their children to kill. And yet for some reason, we discourage our children from killing. We don't think it's right. Why is that? Because killing an animal goes against our innate compassion. It's not natural for us to harm animals. It doesn't come naturally to us. We don't want to. When we see people doing it, it upsets us, it offends us, it makes us cry. We watch photos like this, it makes us really upset. If this was morally justifiable, it wouldn't make us upset. If it was morally justifiable to harm animals, this sort of footage would be acceptable. A lion doesn't get upset when it kills a gazelle. A tiger doesn't get upset when they kill their prey. For some reason, we get upset when we see animals being killed, even though we think it's okay to eat them. The animal agriculture industries know this. They know this footage. They know that what happens to these animals does upset us. That's why they hide it from us. That's why they keep it a secret. That's why they use marketing ploys like free range. Now, when we see a box of eggs and it has the word free range written on it, what we do is we attribute our idea of freedom onto those eggs. Now, to us, freedom means being able to do what you want with your life. Being able to live your life the way you want to. Being able to spend time with your friends, your family, your loved ones. Being able to do what you want to do without being told how you should live. That's what freedom means to us. So when we see a box of free-range eggs, we put our ideals of freedom onto that box of eggs, and we think these hens must have lived a wonderful life. They must have been outside, spent time with their friends and family, told things that they want to do. But in reality, as we all know now, that's a lie. There's no freedom in the ways that we exploit animals. Now, what about humane slaughter? The word humane means having or showing compassion or benevolence. How do you humanely, compassionately, or benevolently kill an animal that doesn't want to die for an unnecessary reason? You can't. Humane slaughter is an oxymoron. Well, what about happy cows and happy milk? This is a term we hear all the time. You go to a supermarket, you see the laughing cow cheese. On that packet, you have a motherly-looking cow who's happy, she's smiling. These are the images that we're sending to our children. These are the images that we're indoctrinating our children with. These animals are grateful, that they're happy to give their goods, to offer their secretions, to offer their flesh, to offer their life to us. This is the sort of thing we're indoctrinated with from a very young age. But if you think about the happy milk and the happy cow myth, is the cow happy when she's forcibly impregnated? Is the cow happy when her babies are taken away from her? Is the cow happy when she's forced into milking parlours and has terribly painful bacterial infections created on her udders like mastitis? Is the cow happy when she's loaded into that truck taken to the slaughterhouse? Is she happy when that bolt is positioned over her head and that knife to her neck? It's important that we realise, that we understand, that there is no such thing as humane animal exploitation. There is no right way to do the wrong thing. There is no right way to exploit or kill an animal that does not need to die for us. And so the question kind of becomes, well, if we improve the conditions these animals are in, surely that will make it more morally justifiable. We all agree that what happens in this film is terrible, but can we just improve how these animals are treated? Can we just make their lives better? Can we kill them in a different way? Wouldn't that make it moral? These animals, they don't care if they're grass-fed, they don't care if they're organic, they don't care if they're RSPCA approved or red tractor assured. These things mean nothing to these animals. Because as soon as we exploit them for what is rightfully theirs, or as soon as we take them to the slaughterhouse or to the yard to kill them, and every single animal that we exploit ends up in a slaughterhouse or in someone's yard with a knife across their throat. As soon as we do that, it doesn't matter how nice a life they've lived. It doesn't matter if they've lived with their children, with their family. It doesn't matter if they've been happy throughout their entire life. As soon as we do that to these animals, we exploit them, we abuse them, and we hurt them unnecessarily. Now, it always strikes me as strange that when we campaign against the Yule and Donkey Festival, or we see examples of people in Southeast Asia killing dogs and eating dogs, we ask for those actions to be abolished. We say the Yule and Donkey Festival should end. No one says, why don't we put these dogs in a more humane environment? Why can't these dogs be free range? If the animals that they ate in China, in Yulin, or in Korea, or Vietnam, or anywhere else where they eat these animals, if the Labrador steaks were red tractor approved, would that make it better? If they were eating RSPCA assured minced poodle, would that make it better? How can we have so many double standards when we look across the world and we point to certain cultures and say, stop killing dolphins, stop killing whales, stop killing dogs, stop killing cats? And when it comes to our own consumption of animals that think and feel just the same, we say, well, can't we just kill them in a nicer way? We live in a state of moral hypocrisy where as a society we love animals. Predominantly here in Britain, we are a nation of animal lovers. We cherish them, we care for them, and we hate it when people abuse them. It makes us angry, it makes us sad. And yet so many of us are guilty every single day of perpetuating a system that inherently is cruel and inherently hurts animals. It's not for any necessary reason at all. Now, a lot of people think that when you go vegan, you give things up. But that's not true. As a vegan, I eat all the things I used to eat. I eat curries, I eat burgers, I eat cakes, I eat cookies, I eat mac and cheese, I eat lasagnas, I eat cheesecakes, I eat donuts, I eat all the things that I used to eat. I eat that vegan fried chicken, I even eat vegan tofu, fish and chips, and it's delicious. And it tastes just the same. You've got all the nutrients, you've got all the flavours, all the textures. But the beautiful thing about vegan food is there's no dead animals, there's no exploited secretions, there's no gristle, there's no cholesterol, there's no hormones, there's no antibiotics. And it's all the foods I used to eat. But without having to worry about perpetuating systems that inherently harm animals. Now, some people think that veganism is restrictive, but I used to only have one type of milk, cow's milk. Now I have soy milk, almond milk, hazelnut milk, cashew milk, oat milk, rice milk, coconut milk, quinoa milk. I eat so many more varieties of foods that I never even heard of before. I use so many more ingredients that I never even considered existed before. When you go vegan, it opens up your eyes to a whole new range of culinary delights you probably never even considered. Now, the American Dietetic Association and the British Dietetic Association, which are the largest bodies of health and diet and nutrition professionals in both countries, have recently come out to state that a vegan diet is healthy, safe, and nutritionally adequate for all stages of life, including pregnancy. So what this inherently means is that the most expertise, the most experienced people in these fields categorically state that there's no necessity for us to eat animal products in whatever form they come in. We get the protein, the iron, the calcium, the zinc, the B12, the omega-3s and 6s, all those nutrients that we attribute to only coming from animal products, we can get them from a vegan diet. And this is a really groundbreaking thing, because for so long we've been told, we've been fed the idea that we need protein from flesh and calcium from cow's milk. And now we know from peer-reviewed medical studies taken from some of the most well-renowned and most respected industries and bodies throughout the world, including the World Health Organization, Oxford, Cambridge, Harvard, Cornell, and Yale. These institutions are coming out with these peer-reviewed medical studies that are categorically stating that we do not need animal products to live a healthy life. In fact, getting rid of them increases the quality and often quantity of our life. But at the same time, it's not just the fact that killing and eating animals is responsible for the death of those animals. It's doing terrible things for our environment as well. Animal agriculture is responsible for more greenhouse gas emissions than the entire transportation system combined. It's responsible for things like oceanic dead zones, and we're in the next largest mass species extinction, predominantly because we're ripping down our rainforests and just completely destroying our oceans. Raising and killing animals is responsible for topsoil erosion, land desertification. In fact, it's responsible for causing nearly all of the main destructive environmental destructions that we are currently facing as a species. These massive hurricanes, these forest fires can be somewhat attributed to the fact that we raise and kill animals. And the United Nations said last year that to avoid the worst effects of climate change, we need to shift to a plant-based diet. We don't have time anymore. We don't have time to look into the future and think that we'll come up with a master plan that saves our environment. Each and every one of us holds the key to making this world a better place and to adding longevity to the future of this planet. Each and every one of us wants to see this world flourish for our children and for our grandchildren. We want to see whales in the ocean. We want to see tigers in the jungle and orangutans in the rainforests. These are things that we all want to see, vegan or non-vegan. And the fact is, we all have the power to make these things happen. Sometimes we can seem defenseless. We can feel hopeless. It can seem overwhelming. We look at things that are not just happening to animals, but things that are happening all over the world in wars, in Syria, wherever it may be. And we think, well, I can't make a difference. One person surely can't make a difference. And often that may well be true. We point to our governments and we ask them to change, and they never do. But these things that happen to animals only happen because we pay for them to happen. We have all the power to make this end. It's a simple supply and demand situation. Now, if you look at things that happen in this film, and it makes you sad, it makes you angry, it makes you upset, know that the only reason these things happen is because we pay for them to happen. It's not because of corrupt governments, corrupt politicians, corrupt farmers. It's because we demand that these things happen. Now, factory farming is cruel and evil, we all agree on that. But the reason factory farming exists is not because we are an evil species. It exists because it's the only way that is economically viable to produce the amount of animal secretions and animal flesh that we demand. This is a product of our greed and our gluttony as a species. We have the power, we have the ability to end these things simply by going into a supermarket and buying something different, by buying the soy milk over the cow's milk, by buying the vegan mince over the cow's milk. These are things that we have the power to change. Now, I think it's important to add near the end here that legality does not always equal morality. Just because these things are legal, just because eating animal products is legal, does not make it moral. Apartheid was legal, slavery was legal, the Holocaust was legal. Now, just because we make a personal choice to buy these products also doesn't make these actions morally justifiable. Because when your personal choice is a victim, it's no longer as easy as justified by saying, I personally choose to buy these products. You see, murder cannot be morally justified just because the person personally chooses to commit the act of murder. Beating and killing a dog cannot be morally justified just because the abuser personally chooses to beat and kill that dog. And paying for someone to exploit and kill animals cannot be morally justified just because we personally choose to pay for someone to exploit and kill animals. Now, I want to bring this back to nature a little bit, and I want to draw a couple of examples. The largest and strongest animal on this planet, the elephant, the rhino, and the hippopotamus, what do they all have in common? They're all herbivorous. They all only eat plants. Now, interestingly, hippopotamuses also have the largest canines that exist in nature, and they're herbivores. Gorillas share 98% of our DNA, and they are also herbivores. They eat only plants, maybe the occasional termite, but only really plants. Now, if you think of a gorilla, who is physically a lot stronger than we are, and needs a lot more protein than we do, and a lot more calcium than we do. If they can get all the nutrition they need from plants, you'd think that we probably can as well. But the world is changing, there's a massive shift occurring. We've got plant-based athletes popping up all the time. David Hay, the boxer, is an ethical vegan. Patrick Abunian, who's Germany's strongest man and a world record holder, he's been vegan for many, many years. Kendrick Farris, the Olympic weightlifter, he's vegan. There are so many more plant-based athletes coming around and appearing all the time. We've shown that actually switch to a vegan lifestyle not only improves our performance, our recovery time, but makes us stronger and physically more capable. So I want to leave you with this question now. And the question is, in an age where we have an abundance of information, where we have freedom to access a whole range of information and resources at our fingertips every single day, can we continue to consider ignorance an excuse for participating in these cruel actions? Thank you very much. And if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. There is no microphone, but it's still small things you might have to speak up. But if anyone has any questions, please.
How do you recommend getting started with that?
The question was, how do I recommend getting started with activism? I think just look for local groups in your area. There's a couple of really great groups. The first one is Anonymous for the Voiceless, and that's an outreach group where there's a queue of people and they hold laptops and screen footage taken similar to this to members of the public. There's other people that kind of stand around the queue and have conversations with members of the public who kind of want to stop and kind of want to ask questions. That's brilliant. Another one's called the Save movement, and the Save is where we stand outside slaughterhouses and we stop the trucks of animals going into these slaughters, and we bear witness to them, and we see them as individuals, we look at them in the eye, and we kind of feed them water, offer them comfort, we film them, and upload it onto social media to kind of show people these individuals that we're killing. Because what we have to get people to do is understand that these animals that we eat are all individuals, they're all unique, and they're all beautiful in their own way, just like we have. They all have their own idiosyncratic behaviours that make them unique. What we have to do is show people that these animals that we eat, even though we slaughter them by the trillions, inherently all individuals and all unique in their own way, and doing that's very powerful, and that's what really works on the Save movement. So those two are really great, but there's also things like marches you can get involved in, there's protests and there's campaigning. Another thing I really like to do is have an outreach table and offer like free food samples, get some plant milk, get some vegan cheese, some vegan chocolate, if you've got a little freezer, some vegan ice creams, and just invite people to come over and try vegan foods. And what's really beautiful about that is it shows people that it's delicious, that it's accessible, it's affordable, it's convenient. And the four main reasons that it always boils down to why people consume our products is taste, tradition, convenience, and habits. So you can show people it's tasty to be vegan, you can show people it's convenient to go into the normal supermarket and simply buy something different. You can show them it's affordable by telling them actually being vegan is cheaper, because the things like rice and potatoes and pastas and grains and vegetables and fruits are cheaper than meat and cheese. You go and compare those different items, it's cheaper to be vegan. And things like soy milk, how you can get cheaper than you can cow's milk. And this is just a trend that's going to continue. As more and more people go vegan, the price of vegan products will continue to come down. I really think that's a good thing to do as well. Anything else? Please, go back.
Do you have any advice for people who want to go vegan?
Great question. I think the number one thing to do is just research as much as possible. Now, I only really touched upon some of these issues. So research the environment. Watch a film called Cowspiracy, it's here on Netflix. It really goes into detail and talks about how raising and killing animals is destroying our planet. It's scary, it's terrifying to think that something so trivial as a taste of something, the sensory pleasure that we get from 50 minutes eating the flesh of an animal is destroying our planet and causing so much havoc to our rainforests and to our oceans and to our environment and to the air that we breathe. And they say that by the year 2048 we may well have fishless oceans. And the scary thing about that is if the oceans die, then we all die, because the majority of our the majority of our oxygen comes from things called phytoplankton that exist in the ocean. And if we wipe out all the phytoplankton, then we're suffocating ourselves inherently and we're going to destroy ourselves. And the thing is, when we fish, the fishing techniques that we use are entirely unsustainable. We have these huge nets that trawl through the ocean, and they don't discriminate on which animals they pick up. They get the salmon, the tuna, the mackerel, the cod, but they also get whales and dolphins and sharks. They get every stage of the food chain. If you eliminate one stage, you eliminate it all. We're completely massacring every element of that ecosystem in all our oceans. And the fact that we have, I think it's like 2/3 or even 3/4 of our ocean fisheries are depleted. And we have oceanic dead zones, which are huge, expansive areas of the ocean where there's no life at all, because these nets, they drop all the coral as well. And it's shocking, and it's really horrific. And obviously, the plight of the oceans comes down to plastic consumption as well, and it's something we have to be careful of. But fishing is just entirely unsustainable. We cannot continue to eat fish if we want to see a planet in the future. And this fact is really troubling, and it still kind of troubles me. But it says that the number one predator of fish is cows. I mean, how mad is that? Because when we catch those extra bycatch, we have two options. We either throw it back into the ocean, or we can mince the fish up and feed it to livestock animals. So the number one, predator for fish is cows. I mean, that's crazy, So even if we give up eating fish, we don't eat like beef and stuff, or even pigs, we're still contributing to the environmental degradation. So do as much research as you can. Look at What the Health, another documentary that's free to watch on Netflix. It talks about how eating animal products causes things like heart disease, type 2 diabetes, colon cancer, prostate cancer, breast cancer, strokes, Alzheimer's. All these are the most common, illnesses and the most common reasons people die in the West. And it can be hugely attributed to the fact that we eat animals. And in fact, a switch to a plant-based diet can not only prevent, but it can treat and reverse our leading killers. There are people who have heart disease who go vegan, and they can get rid of their heart disease and have years of quality to their life. People with type 2 diabetes are all the time reversing their type 2 diabetes by switching to a plant-based diet. It is, it should not be understated of what we can do with a plant-based diet and the amount it can help us. And ultimately, watch this footage, see it, they're witness to the suffering of these animals, because that's what keeps you in line at the beginning. It's what keeps you in check. It reminds you why you go vegan. It reminds you of the victim that's at stake. It reminds you of the real being that's been oppressed. And it kind of puts things into perspective. And we might say, well, I'm going to miss the convenience of cooking a bacon, or I'm going to miss, having cows milk my tea. This convenience of switching products is nothing. Or the inconvenience of switching products is nothing compared to suffering and pain these animals endure. Now, we've all experienced suffering in some degree in our life, whether it's stubbing a toe or breaking a bone. We've all experienced that pain. And we've all had moments in our life where we just wish that pain would end. We wish that we could do anything to click our fingers and no longer be suffering, however little or severe that pain may be. What we have to remember for these animals is their pain and suffering is pretty much endless for most of them, especially the chickens, especially the pigs, where over 90% of them are farmed in these conditions that you saw here. Their pain and suffering is endless. And for them, death is almost a mercy. A small mercy, but it's a mercy nonetheless, because it's the first time they would have experienced pain or fear or terror or horror. How horrible must that be? We can kind of find solace when we suffer. These animals have nothing other than the hope that they may soon die. It's a horrible thing, but just research as much as you possibly can, learn as much as you possibly can, and that way you can't go wrong, And just look where you get your nutrients. If you like certain meals like mac and cheese or curries or lasagna or spaghetti bolognese, if you like certain dishes, just look for a vegan recipe. Just go into Google and type in vegan lasagna, vegan mac and cheese, vegan corn, or whatever it is you like. There is an abundance of recipes now. And honestly, all the flavors, all the textures that you enjoy as a non-vegan, you can enjoy as a vegan. But the beauty of it is, you don't have to worry about the harmful things like cholesterol, saturated fat, trans fat, hormones, antibiotics, and you know that you're living in line with your morals because you're not causing any unnecessary harm to living beings. Please.
So this is a moral dilemma that I have myself, and I would like to get your opinion on it.
Please.
So it can be applied to lots of products, but take something like leather. Let's say you decide not to use that and to use a synthetic ferrous instead. Would you not just then using oil or plastic, because some families then put that more in their food?
Yeah.
Or say you decide to incorporate more soy into that, giving money towards huge swathes of the Amazon being cut down in order to fund that. I suppose my issue is the massive amount of human population, and even if everyone went vegan tomorrow, we would then just be channeling our greed into a different source through oil, Amazon destruction, etc.
The question, I don't know if you call here, was related to, say we go vegan, or say, stop wearing leather, what do you do with those leather products? So is it ethical to buy synthetic leathers that maybe use oil or crude oil that are detrimental to the environment? And what about increasing our soy intake and stuff like that? I think a couple of things to know, and I'll start just with vegan. I think when you go vegan, if you have leather products and stuff like I think it's a bit kind of classist to say throw them out and buy new things because no one can afford to do that. So, say you go vegan and you've got makeup that's tested on animals, or you have leather shoes or whatever, I think it's totally ethical to wear them and use them because just the important thing is you don't buy them again in the future. Now, I think the thing about clothing is there's a wide variety of sustainable clothing that we can use. For me, I always advocate for second-hand clothing from charity shops from places like Depop, not just for the environmental consequences, but because human oppression in garment factories and stuff like that is a massive issue as well. We should be looking to reduce our kind of negative impacts on the world as much as possible. Veganism is not the only answer, but it is the least we can do. And once we go vegan, we can look at all these other things and ways of reducing, say, our plastic intake. Can we go to zero waste? Can we buy from second-hand, or can we buy ethical clothing? Things like that is really important to consider. The thing about soy is soy currently isn't sustainable for our environment. But the reason for that is because over 85% of the soy we grow, we feed to livestock animals. So it would be entirely sustainable for us to all eat a diet which contains soy products with in a sustainable way. It's just because we produce so much soy, it can't be sustainable at its current rates. And again, I guess it relates to clothing as well. Things like hemp are an incredibly sustainable crop. They grow very quickly. They can be used for a variety of things, for fuel, for clothing, for food as well. There's a variety of things you can do with crops. So there's room there for kind of using more sustainable plants as well. And there's something else you mentioned at the end. What was the last
So the last thing I was saying about
human population. So the last bit is about human population, and would we just shift our focus to more unethical or different unethical kind of consumption of other products. I think the first thing to mention is currently we're growing enough food to feed 12 billion people. Some estimates say it has 15 billion, but I think 12 billion is a good benchmark. So we're currently growing enough food to feed around 12 billion people. And on a planet of 7.5 billion people, we have approximately 800 million people living in a state of hunger. Because the food we grow, we feed to livestock animals instead. And I think the fact is 82% of starving children live in countries where food is grown to feed livestock animals in the West. And that's pretty crazy to think that we could feed every hungry, starving child, man and woman on this planet, but we don't because we feed that crop to animals. So the plus side of eradicating agriculture as well as feeding everyone is we could create a lot more space on the planet because we wouldn't have to grow as much as we do. We could kind of stop a lot of this crop production and allow our natural biodiversity to kind of flourish again and come back. We could allow the ecosystems to repopulate, and we could allow the animals to kind of, get healthier numbers, and that would do wonders for our environment if we allow that natural ecosystem to flourish and come back. Now, I think another thing to mention is veganism is abstaining from animal products. What it also is a complete shift in our mentality. And I think what's important to remember is if you raise a child, and from birth you raise that child to tell them that the life of a chicken is equal to their life, or that a fish in the sea should be treated with love, respect, compassion, and dignity, that child will grow up with a set of very strong morals that shows them that all life should be respected. Now, I think all discrimination, if it's based on gender, sexuality, ethnicity, or species, is a learned behaviour, meaning that we're not born with these discriminations. These are discriminations that are taught to us by our society, by our culture, by our parents. And if we raise the next generation of children with the attitude that all life should be treated equally, we inherently would raise a more ethical generation that was kind of more conscious, was more aware of the products that they were buying, and was more aware of the impact that their purchases would perpetuate. And I think what we see is we will be able to change kind of the way the world operates and hopefully eliminate a lot of these unethical products, or at least drastically reduce them. And see, a vegan world, veganism is not harming or not participating in the harm of animals. Humans are animals as well. So for me, the core of veganism is just as much about human rights as it is animal rights. And encompassed within all that is environmental rights, because we're all affected by the ways that we destroy the environment and treat the environment. So for me, veganism is about the shift to a symbiotic relationship with nature, where we don't take more than we can, and we don't let any greed continue to rule us. Instead, we can live a life of luxury. We can live the life that we all kind of take for granted now. We can still travel. We can still eat foods that we wouldn't have been able to eat before. We can still have soy products and avocados and bananas and things. We can still enjoy these products. But we do so in a more sustainable way, in a way that allows the natural world to flourish and we live in a more symbiotic relationship. So I think we wouldn't necessarily have to worry about slipping into the crisis of do we start consuming other unethical products, or do we buy other unethical products. Instead, we change the whole mentality of the world, and that's a huge thing. And that's overwhelming even to me, but the beauty of veganism is that simple change to view all animals as having a life that is worth respecting is a dramatic thing. And I always say to people that you don't have to go vegan and think that a non-human animal is worth the same as a human. You don't have to think their value of life is the same. Personally, I do, but you don't have to. All you have to do is value that animal's life as being worth more than your taste preferences or the satisfaction you get when looking in the mirror or wearing their skin. That's all you have to do, just simple acknowledgement that their worth of life is higher than the sensory pleasure we get from eating them or wearing them. And that's what you have to do, and I think we pave the world for a much brighter future from simply acknowledging that these animals should be treated with love, respect, dignity, and compassion. And I hope that kind of answers your question. I appreciate it was a little bit off on a tangent. Please.
How do you cope with everything?
That's a good question. I think it's so easy to look at the world, not just in the way we treat animals, but in the ways that we treat each other, the ways that we treat the most vulnerable humans as well, and to feel kind of overwhelmed and full of despair. And I know that I often have those moments. But the realization that the only way this world is going to get better is if we act is what keeps me going. Now, the world isn't going to change if we sit at home and complain about it. It doesn't change if we watch the news and we get upset about it. It changes if we act and we make a difference. And we stand up for what we believe in, veganism, human rights, whatever it is. If we stand up for what we believe in and we demand a different world, that's what keeps me going, because I know that this isn't going to change unless I participate in the action changing. And I think we need to surround ourselves with positivity as well and look at the information that shows the world is changing. And in Britain especially, we're seeing a dramatic increase in the number of vegans. We're seeing a dramatic increase in the sales of vegan products and plant milks and substitutes. Globally, we're seeing a dramatic increase in the same, especially in Western countries and more affluent countries, which is where the predominant amount of exploitation comes from. So that's what kind of gives me that hope. Now, that's not to say that I don't feel that despair, and I feel that anger inside of me. What I try so hard to do is channel that and use it for good. And making this, me and my partner made this, and it was not a fun experience. It took us a long time, and we trawled for a lot of horrific footage, and it was not easy. But the reason we did it was because we knew that it would be important. We knew that people would see it and that it would change people's minds, and so far it has done. And that's kind of the thinking behind these things. It's okay if it makes us uncomfortable. It's okay if it makes us angry and upset. It should do, because these things are disgraceful. These things are horrific, so they should make us feel upset, and they should make us feel angry. But the question is, what do we do with that emotion? Because it isn't going to change unless we act. That's what keeps me going, keeps me positive, knowing that I have to be, it's a cliche, but you have to be the change in the world,
Thank you.
You're welcome. Please.
How do you get people who are extreme meat eaters to watch this film? And I'm just wondering how many people here are vegan or vegetarian already?
Could have a show of hands, but I don't want people on the spot either. It's not bad. Well, thank you for everyone who's not vegan and vegetarian coming along. Thank you to everyone for that. But I think a really good way of doing it is, I quite like this. If you say, it's my birthday, don't buy me a present, just watch this film. It kind of puts them on the spot a little bit. I think that works quite well. But it doesn't always work. And the reality is we're not always going to be able to get people to sit down and watch this. I think that's why conversation is so important. You can ask someone, will you watch this 45-minute documentary contains graphic footage? If they say no, say, if it's not good enough for your eyes, why is it good enough for your stomach? And I think where a change happens isn't necessarily through the footage, it's through the conversation that's created. It could be the internal conversation, it could be the conversation you have with the person. That's where we start to allow people to kind of understand their morality. And I think when we ask people questions, rather than kind of telling them how they should feel, what that does is it allows people to understand how they really feel. Now, as I said, we kind of indoctrinate with this set of values, and we don't always question the things that we do, we kind of act unconsciously. We just go to the supermarket and buy a piece of steak because that's what we've always done, right? We don't consciously think about that act and the impact it has. So what we need people to do is to start to connect with their purchases and start to put faces and identities to the products that they're buying. And I mean, the only way we do that is by getting them to question their morality and their ethics internally. So even if they don't watch this footage, strike up a conversation with them and ask them some questions and just see how it makes them feel. We have a slight advantage in the UK because everyone pretty much loves pets, dogs and cats. That's a fantastic question to begin with, What's the difference morally between killing a dog and killing a pig, or killing a dog and killing a cow, or killing a cat and killing a chicken, And really, morally, well, there absolutely is no difference. And that's a really powerful thing to kind of make people realise. And when you start to question your own morals, you start to think, or start to feel a bit uncomfortable. And that's what happened with me. I preached, I loved animals. I said animal cruelty is wrong. People who did animal cruelty, or things that were cruel to animals, I thought should be locked up and should be punished. But I was that person being cruel to animals. And when I realised that, it sat really heavy with me. But it hadn't sat heavy with me until I realised it. And then when I realised it, because people asked me questions about it. So don't be disheartened if people won't watch the footage. Don't be disheartened. Just strike up a conversation with them anyway, ask them questions, and hopefully through that you can create some sort of, conversation. And even if it's not with you directly, hopefully it's within themselves, and you never know where that'll end up. That's what I'd say. You're welcome. Please.
Leading on from that question, obviously you're starting to have these conversations with people. How would you deal with the conflicts that start to arrive with loved ones, families, partners? How do you stop it from creating such a bad conflict, because it's obviously striking against what you care about?
That is potentially the hardest thing, because if my family are vegan, I have a lot of problems with that, and I don't go home and eat with them because I don't want to. They've made comments in the past about it, sarcastic comments, stuff like that. It gets me down. Well, obviously it gets me down like it would anyone. I think what we have to remember is that everyone inside them has that compassion and has that kind of hatred of bad things happening to vulnerable beings, and that includes animals as well. So just keep going with them, keep chipping away. Don't let it get you down more than it will naturally, and don't lose hope, because everyone has that kind of point. I mean, like, how many of us who are vegan used to say that we'd never go vegan? I know I used to mock veganism. I was that guy who would probably all hate, and that was me at one point. And I used to make excuses about organic food, about my canines, about the fact that I'm supposedly an omnivore, and things like that. That was me at one point. And I didn't go vegan immediately as soon as I was confronted with the idea. It took a little bit of time. So just be patient with these people. And also, don't put all your, this is not a good one, don't put all of your cookies in one basket, right? Your vegan cookies, right? Remember that there are people out there who want to hear the message. Just say you've spoken relentlessly to your dad or your mum or your partner or your brother or your sister, and it's not going through to them. Remember, there are people out there who do want to hear the message, and a way of kind of invigorating yourself and empowering yourself is to go out there and be active online, maybe, or in the streets, and have conversations with people who do want to hear. Because when you have a good conversation with someone in the streets and like, you know what, I'm going to try veganism, you're going to go home and feel like, you know what, I can speak well about this, I can be strong about this, I can be a good advocate and a good voice for the animals, and you'll be much more inclined to be confident when you speak about it. And I think it's just important to lead by example, be healthy, show these people that you can get all the nutrients, that you can eat delicious food, show them, lead by example. And I think it just takes time. And what we have to do is normalise the concept of veganism, and that's happening now, but for so long it was seen as like a hippie fringe counterculture movement, and people kind of thought they were all smelling really red deodorant and stuff like that, right? There was a time when that was true, but the thing is now that we've normalised veganism. It doesn't seem extreme anymore. You can go to Nando's and get vegan burger, you can go to Zizzy's and get vegan cheese and your vegan pizza. It's everywhere. And the more normal it becomes, the more inclined people will be to try it, because it won't seem radical or extreme. It'll just seem like something that everyone's doing. And I think that the people who are kind of most resilient to it now will really come around when they realise that it isn't that kind of weird counterculture movement anymore. It is something that's completely natural, completely normal, and logically makes sense. And this is the thing we have to understand, is that logically, rationally, and morally, veganism is kind of bulletproof. Like, we can't really justify harming these animals because it's not necessary. If it was a necessity to do these things, if we had to kill animals to live, then so be it. I'll be out there with my spear hunting animals with you because I had to survive, but now I don't. So it can't be morally justified because we can survive with other things. So morally and logically, it makes complete sense. And when you learn all that information and you have all of those excuses ready to debunk, then that'll make you very powerful. Because what we have to do is, once we ask the question, make sure we have an answer to them. Because what the last thing we want is to inadvertently kind of justify them being non-vegan or inadvertently enable them to be non-vegan because you don't have an answer to the question. So just research as much as you possibly can, so that when your dad, your mother, whoever it is, asks you something or tries to put an excuse in there, you can reply logically and rationally, and over time that will have an impact. It will. It may not seem like it will, but I promise you it will. You're welcome. Go on, sir.
How did you obtain the footage?
So the footage comes from a variety of places. Some of it comes from organisations like Animal Equality, Animal Aid, Viva, PETA, and the gassing is from Australia, because we don't have it in the UK, even though it's used here. So it comes from there. A lot of the factory farm footage you see, especially the chickens and the pigs, we worked very closely with some undercover investigators in acquiring that footage. And so some of it's shot by us. There's all the footage taken outside the slaughterhouses where the animals are in trucks is shot by us. So it comes from a variety of places. It's all, well, not all of it, some of it isn't available online, but a large amount of it is available online to watch. And there's a whole host more. It may sound bleak, but the stuff with the sheep, with that slaughter at the end, is absolutely horrific. But we actually took some of the stuff out because we thought it was too much. And yeah, so it's bad. And I think this film has 101 or something slaughterhouse and farm facilities. And what we really want to show people was that the abuse of animals isn't isolated. What happens often is an expose comes out in the press or it comes out in the media, and people just say, well, that's just one bad farmer, that's one bad farmer, that's one negligent slaughterhouse worker. But what we want to show with this is actually this is a systematic abuse, and that the exploitation of animals is cruel, and it doesn't matter where you're in Scotland or in Cornwall or in Norwich, it doesn't matter, it happens everywhere, and the abuse is always the same, and that was what's really important to us. And I think it's crazy to think that it doesn't matter what farm you go into or what slaughterhouse cameras are put up in, this is always the same story. I think sometimes people see the slaughterhouse footage and they say it's only one slaughterhouse, but every single time a slaughterhouse footage comes out, it's always horrific. And it's not just pure coincidence that the cameras the cameras or the slaughterhouse they put cameras in so happen to be bad. It's not a coincidence. It's just what happens. These systems that they are so quick and the production line moves so fast. This is the only outcome there can ever be, and when the demand is so large, there is no other way to treat animals. And I don't think these farmers are necessarily bad people. I think the pig stuff where they hit them with poles, bad people, undoubtedly. But the people who just farm these animals normally, even though normal maybe factory farming, they're not bad people. They don't have an option. It's the only choice they have. These slaughterhouse workers are not bad people. They're put in a situation they probably don't want to be in. No one grows up wanting to kill animals. No one. Not even bad kids grow up wanting to slaughter animals and kill animals. A lot of these people are impoverished, they're working class, they have no other options. A lot of them are migrants, they don't speak much English. And in Canada, this is troubling. In Canada, they were struggling to fill up the slaughterhouses because predictably people weren't applying for those jobs. So the Canadian government came up with the bright idea that give these jobs to Syrian refugees. So we've got people fleeing civil war in Syria looking for freedom and a life of safety, and they're told, hey, welcome to Canada on one provision, you're going to slaughter animals every day. The exploitation of animals is so much deeper than just what we do to non-human animals. These humans in these films are suffering as well, and we may look at them and we think, well, they're laughing or they're hurting these animals, but they have to desensitize and detach themselves from what they're doing. Any one of us would. If we were spending 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, cutting the throats of living beings, you have to detach from what you're doing, because the psychological and mental toll it has on you is immense. And so house workers have some of the highest rates of suicide, PTSD, depression, generalized anxiety disorder, drug and alcohol abuse. The list goes on. These people, they're expected to kill animals every day and then just reintegrate in society, take their bloody overalls off, go home. It's not realistic, and we know that. Come on, we're all intelligent people, we're an intelligent species. We know that what happens to these people is horrific, and we can't expect them just to be normal. And the fact is, they become so desensitized to violence, they become so repressed. And often what happens is they take out their oppression on their wives, on their children. There was a study done in America, it came out in 2011 by a psychologist called Amy Fitzgerald, and she studied 581 boomtown counties in the US. And she took into account lots of variables, demographics, other types of professions, took that into account. And she studied crime and arrest rates in areas surrounding slaughterhouses of cows and sheep and pigs. And what she saw was a 166% increase in the number of rape arrests. She saw a massive increase in the number of domestic violence and sexual assaults. And the conclusions were that what happens is these people become detached and desensitized to violence. They go home, they're angry, they're frustrated, they have no other choice, and they take out on their loved ones. It's a sad thing, but it's an unfortunate reality of what happens when we kill animals. Now, I have absolutely no idea what your question was, actually. Out of the footage, yeah. So it comes from a variety of places. Yeah, please, sir.
Thank you for doing this talk
Thank
and filming together. I didn't expect it to be quite as shocking as that. I've given up watching videos because I started changing a couple of years ago. Do you ever get people turning away from you initially when you sort of state you're vegan? Just literally the word vegan puts people off, because having done a lot of discussions with people and trying to persuade them myself, not nearly as well as you sort of doing or putting your thoughts out there now, I find like the psychology of people is so difficult to deal with sometimes, especially when they're hell-bent and sticking to their ways. Do you just find the sort of word vegan, for one, just sort of puts people off? They think, like you said, they're a bunch of hippies and that sort of thing.
It's weird, I think, like, veganism started off like with this hippie thing, and then all of a sudden veganism became this extreme animal rights movement where we were burning down laboratories and breaking into slaughterhouses and all sorts of things. People have such weird perceptions of what being vegan means. They think we're going to be domestic terrorists or we're going to be like peace and love and spirituality. It's weird, but the word vegan does have a lot of negative connotations with people, and sometimes when people hear it, they don't like it. It comes back to what I said earlier about normalising it and just showing that everyday regular people, we don't belong to a certain, counterculture or whatever it is. We're just everyday normal people doing normal things, and we just so happen to eat plants rather than animals. I think that's why it's so important to normalise it, so that vegan or veganism is no longer this kind of dirty word. I think that is changing a lot. There's some people who really, really don't like it. I think the reason why is because I think subconsciously everyone knows that this happens, and also subconsciously they know it doesn't need to happen. I don't genuinely believe that people still think we have to eat animals to live. Not here anyway, not here in Britain. I think the majority of people realise, even if they don't want to admit it, that we can survive without it. I mean, like, we all know that Hindus have lived for thousands of years without eating animals, and Jains and people like that, and other religions have lived thousands of years without eating animals. Like, we know this, so we know we don't need these secretions or flesh products. And I think so when people hear the word vegan, they get angry or offensive, or don't want to hear it. I think it's because subconsciously they know that if they were to think about it, or at least have a conversation with someone who was vegan.
Those excuses on.
Oh yeah. Hi.
Some totally weird
Crazy,
excuses.
crazy.
Can't get
I mean, who would have thought that people care so deeply about the feelings of plants, right? Like, I never once considered plants as feelings. I go vegan, everyone's telling me, oh God, you have no idea plants might feel pain. And, like, you know what? Maybe they do, but what I always say to people is it takes up to 16 kilograms of plants to create 1 kilogram of beef. So even if you think plants feel pain, you still should be vegan because a lot of these plants are killed. But you come, there's these crazy excuses that, all of a sudden these canines were built for tearing flesh, and you can barely crunch your apples sometimes with them, But it's true. I think what we have to do is normalise veganism. We have to normalise the philosophy of veganism. We have to show people that everyday people are doing it, that it's accessible, it's affordable, it's convenient. And some people don't want to hear it immediately, so be it. We can't change the world overnight. What we can do is concentrate on people who do care, who are compassionate, or at least kind of more obviously compassionate, and people who do want to change it, and focus on them instead, and the rest will fall into place. As a species, we are kind of like sheep. I don't mean that in a derogatory way to sheep, but I mean is that we follow. And when the majority of people are vegan, or at least a huge amount of people are vegan, more and more people just follow it because they think it's cool or it's the right thing to do, or their mum and dad or brother and sister do it, or their best friends do it, so they want to try it. The more people that do it, the more people that will do it, and it's kind of this snowball effect. And we've seen it kind of going for a number of years now. I think now it's picking up, and I was speaking to a chef earlier, and he cooks meat every day, and he was saying, look, it's happening, it isn't going to change, veganism is inevitable, we're never going to go back now, it's just something that's going to continue to progress, and it's true. I think we can bury our heads in the sand and kind of like stomp our feet defiantly and pretend it's not, but it is happening. It is happening here, and what we have to do as people who are already vegans, continue to push that, continue to inspire people and chat to people. And if people don't want to hear it immediately, let them go, because there are plenty more people out there who do want to hear it. Please say.
Do you think the word vegan is too extreme for some people? I.e., some people choose to just maybe gain venison or rear their own. I know somebody in New Zealand who rears their own livestock.
Yeah.
About, say, 10 chickens, 2 pigs. They have a wonderful life, but they don't kill it themselves. They eat it themselves just for their family. They don't sell it. And so, how do you defend, or how do you explain veganism to them? And they obviously agree what you shown on the film is awful. It should not happen. So how would you then?
It comes down to necessity again, and I touched on the speech, and it's the idea that it's about how nice we treat animals. At the end of the day, as soon as we kill them, it's abusive in itself because they don't need to die. Like in the UK, even if people have a little small holding of 10 chickens and 2 pigs, those animals don't need to be killed. It doesn't need to happen. So even if they're loved, I find it a little bit more disturbing when people, when they say they love the animals, and they give them names. Or like you see pictures of farmers or like farmers' children cuddling the animals and bottle feeding them. It disturbs me so much. The thing that these people are bottle feeding the lambs when they know they're going to kill them. And to me, that's the ultimate act of betrayal, because these animals have grown up to love you and trust you, and they think that you love them and want to help them, and then we still put a knife across their throat or still send them to the same slaughterhouse, whatever it is. To me, I think that almost seems, obviously you'd rather live that life than left these factory farms, but it almost seems crueler because it is such a betrayal. And I just want to explain to people that if there's no necessity, it's about how it's done, there's no right way to do the wrong thing. So, please.
So, not too far from here, they obviously love a deer, and they control the level of deer by culling, and a lot of that meat gets sold for food. Is that acceptable, or is that?
There's a similar thing in London, in Richmond Park and Bushy Park. Now, in Germany they use contraception, and that's proved really effective at maintaining the deer population. But we don't do that here. And I thought, why don't we do it here? And a little bit of exploring, and the amount of money that the borough parks and maybe this place as well make from selling venison or deer flesh is absolutely massive. They make a lot of money. It's a very expensive meat. So I think the issue is it's disingenuous when these people say, we're just trying to control the populations because we care about natural wildlife, when they're selling the flesh because there's financial vested interests involved. And there are humane ways of controlling population, especially deer. Not all animals, but especially deer, with methods of contraception, so we don't need to kill them, especially, and we definitely need to sell them. I think it is disrespectful when we then sell them and eat them, because if we absolutely have to kill an animal and kill them, we should at least give them respect to kind of lay them to rest, rather than butchering them, pulling all their organs out and deciding them to eat them. I think these people that kind of claim that are being disingenuous, especially when there are alternative humane methods. Thank you for the great question. Thank you. Please, yeah.
What's the deal with honey?
Great question. So honey isn't vegan, and there's a number of reasons why. Now, commercial beekeeping involves a lot of exploitation. So, for instance, the males, they have to again artificially inseminate the queen bee, and the way they do this is it's a bit weird. There's some pictures of the footage online that they can pop like the ends of the male bees, and they take the semen out of them, and they clamp the queen bee down. They clamp the queen bee down and forcibly impregnate her. It's very similar to what we do to dairy cows, but it's on such a small scale. No, it's also not profitable for a lot of the beekeepers to keep their bees alive all year, so quite often they gas out the hives and then repopulate again for the next year. And it comes down to this issue of exploitation again. Now, honey is created by the bees for the bees. It's their food source. What happens is when we take the honey, we replace it often with high fructose corn syrup, which is not adequate for what the bees need. So we take what's theirs, what they've created and what's hard to create, and we replace it with some terrible knockoff, impersonator, which just doesn't cut the job. Now, I totally believe that we need beekeeping. It's vital that we have beekeeping because we need to replenish the natural, population of bees. We've decimated it with, pesticides and herbicides, and those horrible pollutants that are destroying our environment. We've decimated their population. We all know about the bee problem. So what we need is beekeeping. to create, or at least to repopulate, or re-energise the bee populations. But that doesn't provide an excuse for us to take their honey because they create it for themselves and they need it. Especially when we've got a whole list of alternatives, it comes down to necessity again. When we have natural sweeteners like agave, maple syrup, there's a vegan honey alternative made from coconut syrup now that do everything that we like honey to do, but don't involve the exploitation of bees. That's brilliant. And I think even though there are somewhat you would consider maybe humane beekeeping where the queen bee does have a wing clipped, where she's forcibly impregnated, where the males aren't killed, maybe where they're not gassed out at the end of the season, there's still exploitation because we're taking what isn't ours and what's rightfully theirs when we don't need to. So I always say about the honey thing is do your own research on it because I did it and it kind of was fascinating. But I think sometimes it can seem a bit weird because people think, well, what's the problem with honey? It's just bees, you know. But when you look into it, there's a lot of things that happen there. So just do a bit of independent research, and there's some great videos online, and I think I've probably touched on most of the issues, but yeah, do a little bit more research. Please.
Hi, I was just wondering, how do you stop the behaviour that's often associated with being a vegan when it comes to us and them? It's almost like people make it so unique and so unordinary to be vegan that almost it's associated with like such a rare thing. Because I think honestly a lot of the time people don't have a lot of knowledge about what happens in these farmhouses, and it's not to make any excuses at all. But I think sometimes a lack of education and ignorance can make people do things that they're unaware of. And at the same time I feel like when people are confronted they can feel this kind of like guilt and shame, which often comes with reacting in a defensive way. So I feel like in a lot of ways it's important to make awareness of things like this, but at the same time it needs to be done in a way that doesn't make people feel like they live such a horrible life, or making them feel like there's not much they can do anymore, because once people become defensive they feel like they have to live their life the way they were living it. It's almost to justify what they're doing and to say that it's right. But at the same time I feel like if the kind of talk you're doing today is really important, and if we were to deliver that to a range of people, not just in universities but in schools, and approaching it in a way that makes people not guilty but just kind of increases their knowledge of what happens, I think that might be a nice approach. Because a lot of the time you hear the word vegan, people get angry, or I don't know, they react really, it's almost like what's associated with being vegan is often negative, so it stops people from wanting to learn more. But what would you suggest in terms of teaching people, or even learning about it yourself, to kind of overcome that negative association with being a vegan?
I think you've hit so many important points there. Absolutely right. Just because people do these things, the reason they do it often is because they don't know, and we're ignorant to this, and we're ignorant to it because we're told to be, but it's not shown to us, because the adverts for Nando's and the TV don't show chickens in farms. That's exactly right. And as I said, I wasn't born vegan, and maybe if a couple of you are, that's amazing. You should be very fortunate and feel privileged to do that. But most of us, the vast majority of us, we weren't, and we have to remember that. We were once the people making these mistakes. We were once the people buying into these systems, these industries. So when we have conversations with people, remember that. Remember that being human means being imperfect, and we all make mistakes. Not just related to this, but in all areas of life. We're not perfect beings. No such thing exists. So when we have conversations with people, be relatable. Say, I used to do that. I was once a person buying Domino's every week or eating KFC all the time. That was me, and I enjoyed it, just like you do. And listen to people. Even as vegans, we can learn so much from the conversations we have. When I have conversations with people, I learn so much from them. I had a conversation with a dairy farmer earlier today, and I learned from what she was saying. And I think it's so important that when we have conversations, we don't have all the answers, Just like everyone, we've been born into this kind of slightly crazy, disorientating, and confusing world. We're just trying to make the best of the life we've been given. So don't seem like you have all the answers, Don't seem like you are morally superior, because veganism is a morally superior way of life, but that doesn't make us morally superior, you see. We're still just normal people. So when you have a conversation with someone, just be relatable, put yourself in their position. What would work for you? If you were that person you're talking with, how would you like to be spoken to? What would have made you question veganism or think about veganism or go home and research it? A polite, friendly conversation, that's always what would happen. If you attack someone or you point the finger or you become accusatory, the first thing that happens is they go on the back foot, you go on the back foot, you want to defend yourself, right? You want to regain that power of dominance. So just be respectful, listen to people, ask them some questions. Don't tell them how to feel, ask them how they feel, respect them. And I think that's how we create a change that's pragmatic and that's kind of mutually respected, right? Because at the end of the day, what we want is to end this. And we have to ask ourselves, what's going to end this quicker? Like self-serving, kind of being angry and shouting at people, or kind of being sympathetic and saying, okay, understand why you feel that way. I like the taste of bacon too, but have you considered this, or how do you feel about this, or can you morally justify it? That's the way to do it. When we shout murder or rapist or animal abuser, it's self-serving because we're angry and we want to take that out of people. But it doesn't help the situation at all. In fact, it makes the situation worse. And if we were the animals in this position, if we were in the slaughterhouse, we would be begging for people to be the most effective and strongest advocates they can be. And that sometimes involves putting our own emotions to a side for a second and thinking what will have the biggest effect positively for the animals. And that is sometimes just saying, okay, look, I understand you enjoy the taste of this product. Have you considered this? Okay, I understand that we've been raised culturally to view animals in this way, but do you think that makes it immoral? Just ask people questions. And the easiest way of staying calm is to have all the information, to research. What happens when we don't have answers to some things, we get angry because we're frustrated ourselves for not knowing. So when someone says something to us and we don't have a response, we want to shout at them and tell them they're an animal murderer. But know the answers to the questions or the excuses. That way you can be calm, you can be rational, you can just respond properly. Always remember, these people, even if they're involved in the killing of the animals, they're not bad people. None of us are all good or all bad. It's all a spectrum, and no one's bad just because of the animals. We've been told to, we've been lied to, we've been manipulated to, and we've all been guilty of that manipulation. Even if it's not just the consumption of animals, just the way we live our life. We've been kind of told to live in an almost a selfish way, and it isn't necessarily the people's fault, our fault if we do that. Relatable, we have to be relatable. It's not us versus them. We are all weeds in this situation, just trying to do the best with the life we're given. Tell people that,
Sorry, one more thing. I feel like when also you have knowledge about what happens, something like this, I feel like a lot of the time there's a lot of expectation to change that instant. So if someone leaves this room now and I don't know, is to have to do anything that they would usually do, it's almost like, it's almost you didn't learn from what you've been taught or what you've been seeing. But I feel like sometimes a slow progress is better than no progress at all. And I feel like it's okay to be patient with people, to take that step, to learn more about what's happening, but at the same time, not to make excuses for them. It is quite hard to come from the habits. If, for example, you've been eating meat for all of your life, to get up one night and say, I'm never going to do this again, it can be quite unrealistic. And I feel like a lot of people find it quite hard to stop their habits overnight and do the right thing the next day. And we need to be more patient and manage it that way.
I always, when I advocate or talk to people, I always advocate for veganism. I always think veganism is the final goal. Now, if people get away from that conversation and they decide that they're going to vegetate or reduce, I can't control that. Different strokes for different folks, right? Not one size fits all. And some people can go vegan overnight. Beautiful, that's amazing. Some people don't, and we have to be aware of that. You're welcome. Thank you so much. What I say is when you have a conversation with someone, like our goal in that moment isn't to turn them vegan instantly. Just planting seeds is all we're there to do. We have to allow them to make a decision themselves. You can't force anyone to be vegan. All you can do is encourage people to independently research. Thank you so much. All you can do is encourage people to independently research it themselves. When I have a conversation with someone, I always say to them, don't take what I say as on face value. Don't even take what you see in this film on face value. Take what I said, take what you've seen, and research it yourself. Go, is it lying about free range eggs? Go home and look into it yourself. Scrutinize everything you're told in this world. That's the only way. Don't take what people say at face value. Take what they said, research it more, and see how it makes you feel. So we can't make anyone go vegan. All we can do is encourage people to look at the information and then hope that they themselves understand that it is something that aligns true with their morals. But as you say, we've got to be understanding of people, and we've got to respect that, and can't force anything on anyone. All you can do is inspire people, and that's what I hope this film does, and what I say so. We've got, I think people leave, so we'll probably leave it now. But thank you so much. And there is, I believe, there should be, yeah? Okay, we've got some vegan pizza out. It's got vegan cheese on it, so that's great. It's delicious. Do you want to say something?
Yeah.
Okay.
Before everyone realizes that there's pizza outside and you need to go quick, we have a society here where many of the people are members. And the society was able to bring in Ed and bring in the church team and make this possible. I believe it would have happened anyway because there are too many people who care about it. But these are all things that are happening because of this society. It's called Reducitarian Society, right? And we are all very passionate about whatever reason we're going on about it. So please join up. Please join up. If you feel like this has moved you, this experience, please join, because we are a community of people in this university that want to see change. And we don't want to see it tomorrow, we want to see it today. So we have to do what we can. So please, 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 join up to the society. We're going to make changes happen in Warmouth University today for tomorrow. All right, so we got some pizza.